welcome to this video. I'm really excited to show you what I have prepared for you. In this video we are gonna take a deep dive into React navigation. As we all know, modern apps are extremely complex. They provide a lot of functionality. In order to manage such complexity, we tend to separate our application into multiple screens through which the user will need to navigate in order to fulfill a specific task. In this video we are gonna implement and architect such a navigation for one of our demo apps. So let's get started. If you wanna follow along, in the description of this video you will find all the necessary materials that you need. A GitHub repo containing the starting code and also a few diagrams which we are gonna use as our guide. For this project we are gonna use React Native, TypeScript and React Navigation 6. Our mission is to implement a navigation system which offers all the necessary safety features that we need, types and linting. Before we jump into the code, let's take a look at our diagrams. As you can see, our application is split into multiple flows. What is a flow? A flow is a collection of screens dedicated to a specific feature. The first flow that we are gonna take a look at is the login registration flow. This flow consists of the welcome screen, the login screen, the registration screen, and the reset password screen. In the code attached below you will find all of those screens already implemented, so we are not gonna take too much time into creating new screens or styling them. For the second flow in our application, also called the main flow, we are gonna use a tab bar. A tab bar is a navigation component which lets you separate your app into multiple sections. In our application we are gonna have three different subsections: the products list, the categories, and the user profile. Alright guys, so let's start with the login registration flow. In order to do so, we will create a new directory in our source folder. We will call this directory router. This directory will contain all of our navigation logic and structure. In order to start with the login registration flow, we will create a new directory inside the router folder. We will call it login stack. And inside this folder we will create a file called index.tsx. Alright, in order to ensure TypeScript safety, we will create another file called params.ts. And in this file we will create all the types we need for our navigation for the login stack. So let's begin by creating the login stack params. In order to do so, we will export a new custom type. We will call it login stack params, and here we will define all of our screens from the beginning. Welcome screen, which is gonna be undefined. The login screen, also undefined, and register, also undefined, and also reset password, also undefined. You might ask yourself, well, why do we have so many undefineds here? Well, this type represents the screens that we are gonna have in our stack. The key is gonna represent the name of the screen, and the value represents the parameters that the screen will take. In this case, during the navigation we will pass no parameters to any of those screens. Login screen will have no parameters, registration same for the reset password screen. So since they don't need any parameters, they will be undefined. Let's go back into the index.tsx to define the navigation stack for this. In order to create the navigation stack, we will need to import React first in this file, import React, and also to import create stack navigator. Stack navigator from React Native stack. Alright. Also, we will import the parameters that we have already created. Alright, now we will need to import all of our screens that we are gonna use, calling them login screen. We will also import the welcome screen. We will import now the register screen and the reset password screen. We will use prettier in order to format this file. Now to create the stack, we will use the create stack navigator. We will create a new variable called stack. This function gives us new React Native component, which we call stack, that we are gonna use as our navigator. Also, in order to ensure type safety, we will use the generic feature from TypeScript to pass the params. Good. Now let's create the stack itself. We will create a new component, login stack, and this component will return the following JSX. First of all, we will use the stack, but a specific subcomponent of this stack, stack navigator. Then, for every parameter that we have already created in our new custom type, we will create a new screen. In order to do so, we will do stack.screen. This will be a self-closing component. We will create 4 of these, and now we will associate every screen that we have imported with a specific key in our params. First of all, let's start with the welcome screen. For this, we will have a name for this new screen, and the name will be taken from the params. Here is gonna be welcome. Then we will need to add a component for this screen, and we will use welcome screen as the component. For the next one, this is gonna be the login screen, another component. Alright, now the register screen, and also the reset password screen. Alright, now let's run prettier here and export this stack. Good. Now we need to use this stack into our application and see how does it work. In order to do so, we will go back into app.tsx, and here we are gonna pass this new stack inside of our root component. In order to do so, we will import a new component from React Navigation. This new component will be navigation container, and we are gonna use it to wrap our entire app. We will replace the welcome screen here with the navigation container, and here we are gonna use our new created stack, the login stack. The login stack. Alright, and we will run prettier. We don't need this import anymore. Cool, so let's take a look at what we have got. This is our application now. What you can see is that we have a new header in our welcome screen, but these buttons are not working yet. We will remove this header for the beginning, and how do we do so? We will go back in our navigation stack and we will pass some options to the welcome screen specifically. Options. These options are an object, so we will create another object here, and we are looking for the header component. This is a function which returns a new React Native component, and we will return null. If you go back into our application, you will see that our header has disappeared. You can create customized headers here using this entry in the options object. Good. Let's take a look at how do we make these buttons working. In order to do so, we will go into the welcome screen. Here you will find a few functions that are empty. We need to add the navigation logic in these functions. In order to do so, we will use a new hook. This hook gives us the capabilities of navigating through screens in our stack. If you take a look at the functions that this hook returns us, you will see that here we have this navigate function. Here we can pass a few arguments, and the first one is gonna be the key of the screen that we want to navigate. If you go back here, you will see that we have the login key specific to the login screen. Here we are passing to the navigation function the login key. Let's take a look of what's gonna happen. We are going to the login screen, and we also receive this go back button, which is specifically to the iOS platform. If you are taking a look at the Android platform as well, we will see that here it does look different, and also it has a different style. It has a different animation, but the functionality is the same. Okay, but there is something missing here. Why is this one glowing red? Should we use prettier? No, the problem is because we don't know what arguments we can give to this function. Remember that we are using TypeScript, and we want to ensure that we are having safety when it comes to the arguments that we are giving to our functions. In order to ensure safety here, we will use a TypeScript, we will use the generics features from TypeScript. Alright, in order to do so, we will create a new generic here using stack navigation props. We will also need to pass our login stack params here. Also, a second generic argument will be our current screen, the welcome screen. We'll also use prettier. What are we doing here? We are creating a specific navigation object which corresponds to a stack. This stack is gonna be our login stack, and we are inside the welcome screen here. If you are taking a look in the navigation logic, you see that now when you are passing arguments here, you have exactly the keys which we have registered. You also have the reset password key, the register key, and so on. But we need the login key here, and also for our second handler, we'll use the register key in order to navigate to the register screen. Now, if you are taking a look at our application, when we tap the register screen, we are navigated here in the registered screen. Same for the login button. Cool. We are almost done with the login registration flow. Now, let's go and take care of the login screen. As you can see in the login screen, we also have an empty handler, which helps us go into the reset password screen. We are going to use the navigation hook as well here. Alright, let's import those. And run prettier. Alright, we need to change the label for this one. We are not in the context of the welcome screen anymore. So here we are gonna use the login label and add the navigation logic for this one. Navigate, reset password. Alright, so we are done with the login screen as well. Let's take a look at what we have now. If we go into the emulator, we will see that the login button works. We can go into the login screen. If we tap the forgot your password button, we get here. And if we tap the register screen, we are redirected here. Good, but there is something missing. If you see, this title looks quite weird. It doesn't have any space between. We should edit this. And how do we do so? We are going back into the login stack, and we will add some options to the reset password screen as well. In order to add those options, we will add a new object here, and the entry that we are gonna look for is called title. Here you can pass any title you want for this specific screen. We will call it simple reset password, and now if you are looking here, the title has updated, and here we are. Alright guys, so for now we are done with the login registration flow. Let's move our attention to the tab bar. For this we will create another folder inside our router called tab bar. Inside this folder we will create a few new files. The first one will be the index.tsx file, and the second one will be the params file .ts. Good. Let's continue with the params. In order to ensure type safety, we will need params for our tab bar. For this we will export a new type tab bar params, and here we will list our screens. The first one will be the product screens. Product, which will be undefined for now. The second one will be the categories, also undefined for now. And the last one will be the settings, also undefined for now. Good, we will use these params a bit later. Next, let's create the JSX for our tab bar. In the index.tsx file, we will add a few new imports. First one, React. We need this import in every file where we have JSX. The next one will be a new function called create bottom tab bar navigator from React navigation bottom tabs, and let's use this function. We will create a new component const tab, and this component will be returned by the create bottom tab bar navigator. Good. Now for our tab bar we'll create a new custom component const tab bar, which will return some JSX, and also don't forget to export this component. Export default tab bar. Good. Inside the tab bar component we will return tab.navigator as the wrapper for our navigation, and a few screens. First one, and let's copy and paste this a few times, but in order to ensure type safety we will need to use the generics parameter for the create bottom tab bar navigator. We'll use tab bar params, and now if you check every tab bar .screen that we have created, in the name property we have the screens listed in our params. The first one will be products, the second one will be categories, and the third one will be settings. Alright, let's also run prettier. And now let's register a screen as a placeholder for our tabs. We'll use the welcome screen as our placeholder, so here we will use a component welcome screen, and we will copy and paste this for every tab. Alright, now let's see how is this behaving. If you go back in our application, we are still in the login registration flow. In order to use the tab bar, we need to register this component inside our app.tsx file. We will navigate into the app.tsx file, and we will replace the login stack with the tab bar for now. Let's import it, and let's check it out. We will refresh the application, and now we have a new header and the tab bar. A few things to mention here. This header is not needed, because every tab will have its own header. Also, the icons, those are a few default icons. We will add our own custom icons. And also, if you want to navigate using the welcome screen, pressing those buttons, you will receive an error, We are in the context of the tab bar here. When you push a button from the welcome screen, it's assuming that you are in the login registration flow, so we cannot use those buttons anymore. Since this is just a placeholder, it's not necessarily a problem. So let's go back in our tab bar and deal with those problems. First one, let's get rid of the header. For this, we'll use a new screen options, and we are looking for the header property. Here we will return a null component. Don't forget to run prettier again. And now for the icons. For every tab that we have here in our tab bar, we need to create a new component which returns the icon. Alright, for this I've already prepared a few icons and I'm gonna copy and paste those icons here. Let's import the libraries for this. Feathers and material icons. Alright, so we are using React Native vector icons, and these are a few default icons that come with this library. How do we register these icons? For the first component, we'll use the product icons, and for this, the option prop, and we are searching for tab bar icon. Let's pass the product icon here, and also import tab bar icon prop. For the second tab, options, tab bar icon, and we'll use the category icon. And for the last one, options, tab bar icon, and we will use the settings icon. Alright, let's run prettier again. And let's check our application. As you can see, we have those beautiful icons now. Great. And also the header has disappeared. Good. Now we will switch our attention to create all the sub tabs for our tab bar. Now that we have our tab bar, it's time to start working on the tabs. We will start with the products tab. For this, we should display a list of products, and when you click on one product, you should be redirected to the details page of that product. In order to do so, we will create a new stack navigator. For this, we will go back into our router folder and create a new subfolder, which we are gonna call it product stack. And inside the product stack, we will create two new files, index.tsx and a params file. .ts. We will start with the params. For this, we will export a new type, export type products stack params, and here we will list the new screens for the stack. The first one will be the products list, which will be of undefined type, and another one, products detail. For this screen, we will handle a few parameters. It should receive a product of type product. And now when we will navigate to this screen, the type safety will ensure that we will pass this product to this specific screen. We will use prettier. Good. Now let's go back into the product stack. For this file, we will import React, and we also need to import the create stack navigator. Alright, we'll start by creating the stack. Stack equals to create stack navigator, and we will pass the parameters. Those would be product stack parameters. Alright, now we will create a new component, product stack, and we will use the stack created from above to lay down the structure. Stack.navigator again, and stack.screen. We will need two of those, so we will copy and paste this. Alright, and don't forget to export the functional component. Alright, let's run prettier as well. And now, if we go into the first stack.screen and select the name, we'll see that here we have products list. This is the first screen that we'll have in this stack. And for the component, we'll use product screen. Good. Now, for the second screen in our stack, we will give the name product details and another component, product details screen. Good. Let's run prettier. Good. Now, for the product stack, we need to register it in our tab bar. Let's do this together. We will go back into our tab bar and we will start by editing the params. Alright, so let's start by editing the tab bar params. Here we need to specify that the product key will have another stack navigator nested inside. For that, we will use the navigator screen params. Navigator screen params. And we will pass the product stack params. Alright, by doing this, we have basically ensured type safety for the nested stack parameter. Going back into the tab bar, now we will change the welcome screen. Instead of using the welcome screen here, we will use the product stack. Now let's take a look at how it's working. If we are going back into the application, you will see that now we have all of these items and they are looking great. But when we click on a specific item, nothing happens. We need to add the functionality of navigation. For this, we will go back into the product screen. And here we have this function on tap. Here we need to add the navigation logic. In order to add the navigation logic for this screen, we will need another hook. We will import this hook by creating a new variable, navigation, equal to use navigation. Alright, but to ensure type safety, we will need to add a few parameters. We will use stack navigation parameters, stack navigation prop, and here we will pass product stack params. Also, we will select the context of the products list. Also, don't forget to use prettier. How do we use this new variable? Well, we need to use the navigate function. For this, we will use the navigation variable and call navigate and select the screen where we want to navigate. Details. But as you can see, the function is still red. This means that we are forgetting something. If you look at the options at the params argument for this function, you will notice that here it requires us to pass the product. This is how TypeScript ensures that we are passing all the information that we need to the next screen. Now, if you are going inside the app again and we tap on a specific product, we are navigated to the screen. Alright, so our application is looking good, but except for the header. This is because when we were hiding the header for the tab bar, we basically passed a null component, but we still have a header for the nested stack. Well, we need to do in such a way that the nested stack has the primary header. And how do we do that? We go back into the tab bar and we replace the header null component with header shown. Now we will have the header of the navigation stack. Also, we want to edit this header a little bit. First of all, for the products list, we want to add another title. To do so, we will use the options key. We'll use header title. and here we can add any title we want. We'll use the title products. Alright, and for the products details page, we want to have the title as the name of the product. How do we do so? Well, the options key can also be in the form of a function. We'll use option and we will pass a function here. Here we will receive a few arguments and we are interested into the route argument, and here we can pass an object. We'll also use the header title, but we will extract the title from the route. route.params.product.name. Alright, now when we click on a product from our products list, you will see that we have the title, but for some reason only the first product gets selected. How do we solve this? So in order to fix this issue, we'll go into the products detail screen. Here we see that from our data we only receive the first piece of data. We will need to replace this with the actual products that we get from our params. In order to do so, we'll use the use route hook and receive the product from the parameters. Here is how we will use this hook. We will create a new instance of it, const route, and we will use the use route hook. We will pass a few types here, route prop, and we will add product stack params generic type. Also, don't forget to select the specific context where you are, and from the route we can now select route.params.product. Alright, we can get rid of this import and run prettier. And now when you go in your application, you will see that the product is gonna change. This is how we fetch the products from the navigation system. Alright, so our application starts to look very well. Now let's continue our work with the categories tab. For this, we will use a drawer. A drawer is basically also a kind of a tab bar, but it has it's hidden from one side of your app. For this, we will go back into the router and create a category drawer. Category drawer. And here we will need two new files, params and index.tsx. For the params, we'll export a new type, export type category drawer params, category drawer params, and here we will define all of our categories. The first one will be food of type undefined. The second one would be clothes, also of type undefined. And the third one would be tech, also of type undefined. Now, in our category drawer, index.tsx file, we'll create the drawer itself. For this, we will import React, and we will import a new function, a new navigation function, create drawer navigator. Alright, we will use the create drawer navigator to create a new drawer instance, const drawer equals to create drawer navigator, and let's not forget to pass the params, category drawer params. Alright, now let's create the drawer itself, const category drawer, alright, and let's return some JSX. We will use the drawer instance from above to set up the navigator for our drawer. Alright, we will need 3 of those. And let's not forget about the names. The first one will be food, the second one will be clothes, and the final one will be tech. Right, but what about the screens? We'll need to create a tab for every one of these screens which we created here. I will copy and paste all of them and explain them one by one. Alright, so here we have all of our tabs. First one is the food category, then the clothes category and the tech category. And for every tab we create another products list where we pass the dummy data and we select a specific category from them. We will use prettier and we will add those tabs into the drawer using the components key. First one is the food category, then the clothes category, and the last one the tech category. Alright, let's export the category drawer, export default, category drawer, and now let's add this to our tab bar. We will go back into the tab bar params, and here we need to specify that the categories are basically just another sub-navigator. For this we will use the navigator screen params, and we will pass the category drawers params in order to ensure type safety. Alright, going back into the index.tsx from the tab bar, we will replace this with the category drawer, and now if we go back into our application, we'll see that here we have another list, and we also have this button. This button opens the drawer and we can navigate into each. Alright, this looks great. Now let's focus on our next tab. Alright guys, so we are almost done. Let us continue with the last tab that we have to create for the tab bar. This one is gonna be the settings tab, and we will start by creating a new stack called settings stack, and here we will also create in the settings stack we will create a new index.tsx file and also a new params file. Good. Here we will export a few params. Export type settings stack params, and let's list our screens. The first one will be settings, which will be undefined, and also for the terms and policies we'll have a terms screen which is gonna receive the text, since we are gonna use the same screen for terms and policies but with different text and policy. Alright, now we will create a new stack, the settings stack. For this we will import React, and we will import the create stack navigator, and now let's create a new stack, const stack equals to create stack navigator, which will receive the stack settings stack param, right, and the navigator itself for the settings stack, create a const settings stack, which will return some JSX. We will return a new stack.navigator, and we will have here a few screens, 3 of those. And now let's export the settings stack and run prettier. Let's give some names. The first one will be settings, which will have as component the settings screen. The second one will be called terms. We'll give the component a bit later. And the last one, policy. Also we'll give the component a bit later. For those two screens, we want to display them as a model. So in order to make sure that this is gonna be how we are gonna display them, we'll wrap them in a stack.group. This helps us give settings to both of those screens, like to have global settings and pass them to both. For the group, we'll go into the screen options and we will select from here the presentation and we will set it to model. Also, we can set a new transition mode, transition presets. We need to import those from navigation stack, right? And here we have a few options. We'll go with the fade from the bottom Android and we'll run prettier again. Sorry for this one. Alright. Also we will give the components for these screens, and for both of them we will choose model screen. Alright, now let's set this settings stack into our tab. We'll go into the tab bar params. Here we will use the navigator screen params, and we will ensure type safety by using the generics for settings stack params. We'll run prettier and let's check it out. If you go into our application and go to also into the tab bar settings stack. Alright, and let's refresh, going into the settings. Alright, and here it is. This is how it looks, our settings screen, but you will see that those buttons are not working. The first button is to display the terms screen, the terms model, the policies, and this is the button that we are going to use for logout. Let's start working on those two buttons first, the terms and policies, and we'll work on the logout button in a moment. For this, we also can delete this welcome screen from here. For this, we will go into the settings screen and we should add the navigation logic here. We'll need the use navigation hook, const navigator, navigation, use navigation, and let's add the params here. We'll use stack navigation props, and let's not forget about the params, settings stack params, and here we are in the context of the settings screen. Alright, we'll use prettier again, and for the on terms tabbed navigation.navigate, we will use the term screen, and as TypeScript suggests, we need to pass a text here. We will use a constant, which we already set dummy text, and the same one will be for the policy, but here we will choose a different screen, the policy screen. Alright, prettier again. And now, if we are going into the application, we have the policies and the term screen, but the text is not displayed. Well, as you already saw into the products detail page, we have to fetch that specific params and use them in our screen. We'll go into the model screen, and here we will fetch those specific params. For this we will use route, and also for the route, let's not forget about the generics parameters, route prop, and here we will pass settings text param, and also the context in which screen we are. We actually don't need this one because those are the same params for both. And now using the route we can pass the text here, params dot text. But something is weird. Why are those params optional? Well, it is because we are not very sure if we are in the settings screen, that one doesn't receive a text as params, or in one of those terms or policy screens. Well, we can fix this by giving actually one of those for now, and now the text is fully needed. But for the title we can use route.name. Here the name is not gonna be necessarily terms as suggested by TypeScript, but yes, this one is gonna be the title. And we also need the dismiss button. For this we'll use navigation, hook, use navigation, and also let's add the generics, stack navigation prop, and add here the settings params. Right? We'll use the navigation instance that we received here, and we'll use the function go back. Alright, let's run prettier and check it out. If we go back into our application, now we have the text for both policy and terms, and also we have the dismiss button. We can also use the back button from above, and we now want to get rid of this header. We'll go back into the settings stack and add it as a global option into the stack.navigator, header shown, and set it to false. Alright, prettier again, and let's check this out. It looks much nicer, and now we are forced to use the dismiss button for both of these models. This was our tab bar and all of its tabs. Now we need to work on the session management. As you already saw, we have two main flows. We have the login registration flow, and we have the tab bar, which represents the main flow in our application. We need a way to manage those flows and present the specific one if the user has already a login session or not. So for this, we will first need to go back into our app.tsx, and here we will work on something new. In our app.tsx, we will use a new hook called useContext. This helps us to manage state on the entire application globally. We'll use this useContext hook, and we will pass the session context here, session context. Alright, from this object that the context returns, we need the idle key and the session key. This is a boolean which indicates if the user has a session, and the idle tells us if we are done fetching the session from the local storage. We will manage the session in the following way. If our application is still idling, it's still trying to fetch the session from the local storage, I mean if it's not idling anymore, we will hide the splash screen and display our application. If we have a session, then we will display our tab bar. We will do a conditional display rendering here. If we have a session, then we will display the tab bar. Otherwise, we will display the login stack. Right. We are done here. Let's check our application. We are in the login registration stack again, but these buttons are not working. Well, we need to record in the local storage when the session is changing. For this, we'll go back into the screen specific to the login registration flow. We'll start with the login screen, and here we will add the logic in the handlers. Alright, in order to make sure that we can change the session and log in our user, we will use again the use context and the session context, but we will use a new function, set session. When the user is gonna log in into our application, we will set the session to true. Alright, and let's check this out. Now if we push the login button and we tap something here, we can add any email. I mean, we don't do validation, so we can leave it blank. We are gonna be navigated back here. Great. Now let's do the same for other screens. We'll do it for the register screen. Don't forget the imports. Set session to true. But we also need a case when the session will be set to false. That's the logout button. Here in the settings screen, we'll use the session context again. Don't forget to import it. But here on logout tapped, we'll set the session to false. Alright, use split here again. Also here, and let's check our application. If we tap the logout button, we are redirected back into the login registration flow. If we tap the register and we do the registration, we are in the main flow. And if we refresh the application using the command line, we'll see that we keep the session because it's stored in the local storage. Alright guys, so this is our navigation setup. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's take a quick look at what happened today. We have created a stack navigator for our login registration flow. We have created a custom tab bar for our main flow. We have also embedded another stack navigator for our products list subflow. We have used a drawer in order to split our products into many categories, and we also created a user profile screen using modals. Also, we did a bit of session management using modals, and all of this was put together using TypeScript in order to make sure that our application is maintainable and provides type safety. Alright, if you have any question for this video or new topics, let us know in the comments down below, and until next time, I hope you are having a great day and happy coding!